Here's questions from Bill Plunkett. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, Brandon, what does the outfield picture look like now with Hernandez added in? Do you anticipate him playing every day? What does this do for Margot, et cetera?
Yeah, our assumption and what we're planning on is Teo being an everyday guy. Could look different based on versus right versus left and where that is exactly. And we'll continue to have those conversations with him and figuring out where he's most comfortable and how it fits together. But we certainly view Teo as an everyday outfielder for us.
And the rest of that, is right field become Margot and Hayward, and Mookie doesn't have to jump out to the outfield as often?
Yeah, it could be that. It could be, these are the things that we want to continue to talk through as everybody gets settled. But it could be that Teo goes into right on the days that Jason's not playing, and we have some combination of Margot, CT, elsewhere. So we have different options there, which is really helpful. And yes, like with this addition, we had talked about it, I think, back in the winter meetings where there were scenarios where Mookie may not kick out to the outfield very much. And this is certainly an addition where it feels like Mookie will be playing vast majority second base, and, TBD on if he'll be needed in the outfield or not, but it certainly feels like less of a need than it was prior to this.
What was your evaluation of Hernandez's season last year? The numbers were down a little. He pointed to his splits and that he never got very comfortable in Seattle. What did you guys see?
Yeah, I think we saw some home run splits, a little bit of potentially like pressing and causing his swing to get out of whack, having our hitting guys take a look at that and finding some differences there, where as opposed to where he was at his best, say back in 21 with the Blue Jays. So some minor differences that we feel like will be stuff that we can address once we get our hands on them, but definitely home road splits. Seattle's a tough place to hit for right-handed hitters. I think it's been that way for a while. So we feel like the power and just the ability to really handle left-handed pitching was an exceptional fit for how our lineup's constructed.
Thank you, Brandon. Feel free to sit down.
Thanks, Bill.
Next question is from Jack Harris. Go ahead, Jack.
Brandon, with all the other additions on both sides of the ball you guys made this offseason, why was it important to go out and add not just another bat, but maybe a slightly higher priced one for 1 year and an everyday kind of guy like Teoscar?
Yeah, I think it was looking at balancing out the lineup and being very left-handed heavy and having the ability to add somebody like Teo, who historically has been fantastic for his left-handed pitching, and being able to surround him with the lefties that we currently have in the lineup. I think will just add another challenge to navigate our lineup, whether that's starting pitching or bringing in relievers at some point that we feel like you'll have to pay some type of penalty, no matter whether you're bringing in a righty or a lefty.
How big of a boost was it, or how much does it help to be able to get him on a 1 year deal? And how much do you think kind of your guys' track record with guys in that sort of situation in the past helped, get this across the finish line?
Yeah, I think having, those conversations with Teo along the way, and certainly what our hitting group has done for guys in the past was very helpful as far as, I think, Teo knows that his year last year is not what is indicative of his true talent and not, not what he would have expected. So using this year as a way to kind of get in our lineup, be on a really good team with our hitting guys, those priorities lined up well for both of us.
Thanks.
Next question from Mike DiGiovanna. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Brandon. How do you go about reducing strikeouts with this guy? And in that process, is there sort of a fine line between cutting back on strikeouts and maybe taking away some of the aggressiveness and power that does make him so dangerous at the plate?
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to be looking to actively do much on that front. I think it'll be part of being in a very deep lineup, how Doc deploys him within that lineup. And then, our game planning and messaging of, like, hey, this is kind of where we're going to look to hunt, but not looking to make him overly passive or, change his DNA as a hitter. We actually like a little bit of diversity there. Actually, I don't feel that concerned about the strikeouts, as opposed to, I think, like, what he will do is probably increase his walk rate more within this lineup. But I don't think it's going to be active messaging. I think it's going to be much more a byproduct of being in a really good lineup and, maybe some slight tweaks on how to attack pitchers that are hitting guys will suggest along the way.
He mentioned that he hit a little better with guys on base. Maybe he was a little more selective, a little more patient. Did you guys notice that maybe in some of the numbers you saw or some of the video?
Yeah, I mean, I think what was very intriguing with Teo is that he crushes velocity up in the zone, but he's not susceptible to any one pitch type. He can hit all pitch types. And when he's getting those pitches in the zone, he can do real damage. So there's a real danger behind, what he brings to the plate. And I think when he can force pitchers into the zone a bit more, that's when he's really going to be at his best and able to really impact the baseball.
Thanks.
Next question is from Fabiana. Go ahead.
Yeah, Brandon, it kind of seemed like, at least like around the league, the prevailing theory was the market was kind of waiting on guys like Shohei and Yamamoto to sign, that things would pick up afterwards. Doesn't seem like that's been the case, and Teoscar was sort of saying that that wasn't the case. I mean, where do you feel like the market is right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm sure things are going to start coming off the board here soon, but I'm not exactly sure why and how things are going. It could just be that there's more trade possibilities out there than there have in the past. So teams are weighing different options, but I'm not exactly sure what's driving what feels like a little bit of a slower moving market than the past.
And then your guys' public CBT projections are like around like 300 million. Is there a point where, especially now you guys are past the Cohen tax level, that it sort of becomes prohibitive to keep going, or that sort of pushes you guys to sort of keep pushing even further?
I think, you guys hear us talk about it a lot. I'm sure it's boring. Bill's going to eye roll right now, but just the opportunistic part of this season where we feel good that with our team right now, if, spring training started tomorrow, we feel like we have talent and depth in most areas. So it's just continuing to evaluate and where opportunities present themselves for us to become even better. We'll try to do that, but not feeling pressured to do anything either way.
Thanks, Brandon.
Got time for a couple more. Go ahead, Eric.
Brandon, you mentioned getting Teoscar to work with your hitting guys. He mentioned, thinking that the Dodgers would make him better. I'm just wondering, at what point does that kind of conversation come up, like during negotiations, when you're trying to woo a guy, but you're also saying, here's how we think you can improve? Can that help or hurt your negotiations, like how it's going along there?
I think for the most part, players are pretty dialed into teams and storylines of guys that have gone places and improved. So we're fortunate enough that I think most of the time we don't need to harp on that all that much, but it certainly came up along the conversations. It's something we take a lot of pride in, because we do feel like with our hitting group, we think they're as good as they get. So having that opportunity to make really good players even better, or make minor tweaks to keep guys within bumper lanes to stay more consistent, is something that we really value. And I think that a lot of times players see that as well. So it's not something that we harp on a ton, but we certainly bring it up, and I think most of the time, most of the players who are around also appreciate that as well.
Thanks.
Last questions from JP. Go ahead, JP.
Hey, Brandon, I know that the timing of the transactions becoming official is sometimes coincidental, but like optically, I know you guys had said you were looking for Michael Busch to potentially add, some outfield to his repertoire, and then he gets traded, and then the next day the Teoscar contract becomes official. Was there a scenario where, Michael doesn't get traded and he winds up in left field? I mean, how many permutations were you looking at for that outfield spot?
Yeah, there was a lot of different constructs and paths we could have gone down. Teo's physical was Thursday, so we needed to wait for all of those results to come back, and it happened to be Friday, and we pulled that deal off right before then. But yeah, there were certainly paths where we weren't able to do anything that Michael was going to be right there in the mix. And like we said earlier, I don't think there was anything left for Michael to prove in AAA. He's certainly big league ready. So the fact that once we signed Teoscar, there was interest in Michael for a while, and exploring that a little more in depth made sense once we felt like Teoscar was in the mix for us.
Well, thank you.
And thank you, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.